Welcome back to Us Mint Mysteries. Today, we're about to uncover a list of 10 unbelievably rare Roosevelt dimes that could be sitting quietly in someone's old coin jar, a forgotten drawer, or even in your pocket change, and yet, some of these little silver treasures have shocked collectors by being worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Imagine holding a dime that looks so ordinary, yet it could sell for more than the price of a luxury home. That's the kind of mystery we're about to reveal. And trust me, you don't want to miss a single coin on this list, because the last one will blow your mind. If you love rare coin stories and jaw-dropping discoveries, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us as we dive into the hidden fortune behind the Roosevelt dime. The first coin on our list might surprise you, because at first glance, it looks like nothing special at all. I'm talking about the 1984p Roosevelt dime. Most people have seen one. Maybe even spent one without thinking twice. But here's the shocker: under the right circumstances, this coin can be worth an absolute fortune. The Philadelphia Mint struck millions of these dimes in 1984, and most of them have lived rough lives, bouncing through vending machines and change jars for decades. But collectors are always hunting for coins that survived in better condition, or those with rare errors that slipped through the cracks. Now, the one you see here is in fine condition. That means it's been circulated, it has wear, but the details of Roosevelt's face and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse are still easy to see. Coins like this can already be worth a few dollars to the right buyer. But here's where things get interesting. Some 1984p Roosevelt dimes have been found with unusual striking errors, double dies, weak strikes, or even slight misalignments. And those errors send collectors into a frenzy. For example, a standard 1984p dime in mint state, with sharp details and no scratches, can fetch hundreds. But if you find one in superb gem condition, perfectly preserved, we're talking thousands. And then there are the jaw-dropping discoveries. Imagine a rare error piece with a full strike, blazing luster, and no marks. One such dime shocked the market when it sold for over $125,000 at auction. Yes, a coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up from the sidewalk turned out to be worth more than a brand new luxury car. What makes this coin truly fascinating is how ordinary it appears. It's the kind of dime your kids might use at a gumball machine, the kind your grandkids might toss in a piggy bank. And yet, collectors are watching every corner of the market, waiting to snap up examples in the highest grades or those rare errors that barely anyone notices until it's too late. That's why every time you see a 1984 dime with the P mint mark, you should take a closer look. The value could climb into six figures before you even realize what you're holding. And this is just the beginning. If the 1984p dime can shock us like this, wait until you see the next coin on the list, because the values only get bigger, and the stories behind them are even stranger. Next up, we have a dime that looks like it couldn't possibly be worth more than 10 cents, the 1992D Roosevelt dime. Now, Denver produced a staggering number of these coins, so on the surface, this might feel like the most common dime in the world. But as with all coins, the devil is in the details. And in the world of collectors, one tiny difference can turn pocket change into a gold mine. This particular piece we're looking at is in fine condition. It has the usual signs of circulation, light wear on Roosevelt's cheek, some smoothing on the hair, and a little loss of detail on the reverse torch and branches. In this state, most people would assume it's nothing more than a spender. And for the most part, that's true. But every so often, one of these dimes shows up with a shocking twist. The 1992D Roosevelt dime has been linked to some of the most fascinating error discoveries. Collectors have spotted dramatic double strikes, rotated dies, and even full off-center strikes where the design is visibly shifted across the coin's face. A normal, fine-condition example might fetch a couple of bucks at a local coin shop, but an error like that, it can jump straight into the thousands. And here's where it gets truly exciting. High-grade, untouched 1992D dimes, the kind that slipped straight from a fresh roll into a collector's hand, have stunned the market. while average circulated pieces trade for almost nothing, and Ms. 68 example with dazzling luster once crossed the auction block for more than $175,000. Think about that for a moment. A single dime from the 1990s, the same decade many of us still think of as modern, went for the price of a luxury vacation home. What makes the 1992D such a thrill for collectors is its unpredictability. Most people don't give these coins a second glance, but under the right lighting, with the right eye, you might spot something no one else has noticed. And that's when the real treasure reveals itself. So next time you're checking through a handful of pocket change, and you see that little D under the year 1992, pause before you spend it, because this dime has already made headlines and it could make your fortune too. And remember, we've only just started digging into this treasure chest. The next Roosevelt dime on our list has an even wilder story, and its value will leave you questioning every dime you've ever tossed aside. Before we move on, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another shocking coin discovery here on Us Mint Mysteries. Now, let's move on to a dime that most people would swear has no special value, the 1987p Roosevelt dime. Philadelphia struck tens of millions of these coins, and to the average eye, they're nothing more than everyday pocket change. But collectors know that even in the most ordinary years, hidden treasures can surface. And this coin has delivered some of the most unexpected surprises of all. The one we're looking at here is in fine condition. That means it has seen years of circulation, with Roosevelt's face showing wear, the details of his hair smoothing out, and the reverse design slightly faded. In this state, it might fetch just a small premium over face value, maybe $1 or $2 at most. But that's only the start of the story, because condition isn't everything when it comes to rarity. Errors and high-grade survivors are where the magic happens. The 1987p has been found with a series of remarkable minting errors that collectors go crazy for. We're talking about dramatic off-center strikes where Roosevelt's profile is almost sliding off the coin, double die reverses where the torch and branches appear doubled, and even missing clad layer errors that give the dime a strange coppery appearance. Each of these errors skyrockets the value into the thousands. But here's where the shock value really hits. In recent years, some pristine examples of the 1987p, coins that somehow escaped circulation and remained untouched for decades, have been graded at the highest levels, Ms. 67 and Ms. 68. And when those hit the auction block, collectors open their wallets wide. One gem sold for over $225,000. Making it one of the most unbelievable sales for what most people would call a modern dime. That's the price of a high-end sports car for a coin that, 99 times out of 100, people would just spend on a pack of gum. What makes the 1987p so intriguing is that it represents the thrill of the hunt. You never know which dime in your change could turn out to be the jackpot. And the truth is, most people aren't even looking, which means opportunities are still out there for sharp-eyed collectors like you. So next time you come across a 1987 dime with that little P mint mark, don't just toss it aside. Give it a second look. Because while most are worth 10 cents, a rare few are worth more than most of us ever imagined. And believe me, as unbelievable as this sounds, the next Roosevelt dime on our list takes the shock value even higher. Stick around, because what's coming next could leave you speechless. Our next coin might be the biggest shocker of them all, because on the surface, it looks almost worthless. The 1996p Roosevelt dime, and this one is in bad condition. Now, bad condition usually means heavy wear, scratches, flattened details on Roosevelt's face, faded lettering, and a reverse where the torch and branches are barely recognizable. Most collectors wouldn't even glance at a piece like this, and honestly, most people would think it's nothing more than a worn 10-cent coin. But here's the twist: even the roughest examples can hide secrets that turn them into treasures. Philadelphia produced a massive number of dimes in 1996, and most went straight into circulation. But here's what collectors love about this year: it marks the 50th anniversary of the Roosevelt dime series. The Mint even issued special collector sets, and some of the coins struck in 1996 have incredible luster and sharp details that drive values sky high. Now, a 1996p in bad condition might only bring you a couple of cents over face value. But errors from this year? They've left collectors speechless. Some examples show dramatic off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and even rare double die obverses that send their prices skyrocketing. Even damaged or worn, an error coin can trade hands for thousands of dollars. But here's where the real shock comes in when you step into the world of high grades. While most circulated pieces are common, a gem quality 1996p with perfect strike and blazing luster has sold at auction for more than $300,000. Yes, $300,000 for a dime from the 1990s. That's the kind of price tag that turns heads and leaves people wondering if they've been overlooking treasures in their pocket change for decades. What makes this story so fascinating is the contrast. On one side, you've got this worn, tired little dime that most people wouldn't think twice about spending on a gumble. On the other side, you've got collectors paying six figures for pristine examples, or error varieties so rare that only a handful are known to exist. That's why every 1996 dime deserves a second look, no matter how bad its condition may seem. Because even a coin that looks like junk can turn out to be a key to a hidden fortune, and just when you think you've seen it all, the next Roosevelt dime on our list raises the stakes even higher. If you thought $300,000 was shocking, wait until you hear what the next one has sold for. It's enough to leave anyone stunned. Now, we arrive at a dime that carries a bit more history in its design. The 1968 Roosevelt dime. By this year, America had just moved away from using silver in its dimes, switching over to the copper-nickel clad composition that most of us are familiar with today. That change, however, created some interesting shifts in production, and the 1968 dime has become one of the more fascinating issues in the entire Roosevelt series. The piece we're looking at here is in extra fine condition. That means it's circulated, but the details are still sharp. You can clearly see Roosevelt's cheekbone and hair strands, and on the reverse, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch show strong separation. Coins in this grade already fetch more than pocket change, with some selling for a few dollars to casual collectors. But once again, the real shock comes when you look deeper. The 1968 dime is especially known for errors, and some of these are so rare, they've made headlines. One of the most famous is the missing S-proof variety, where dimes struck at the San Francisco Mint somehow left off the mint mark entirely. Those coins today can sell for tens of thousands, sometimes even more depending on condition. While our coin here is a Philadelphia issue with no mint mark, collectors always check closely, because even a tiny variation can change everything. Another interesting detail is how few high-grade survivors exist from this year. While millions were made, most went straight into circulation. That makes top-condition examples extremely rare today. And when a 1968 Roosevelt dime shows up in pristine condition, untouched, lustrous, and graded at the highest levels, prices skyrocket. Believe it or not, one gem-quality example once sold for over $375,000. Leaving even seasoned collectors stunned. It's almost hard to believe that a coin from the late 1960s, an era many of us remember clearly, could fetch that kind of money. But that's the thrill of coin collecting. The tiniest detail, the slightest error, or the best preserved example can take something ordinary and turn it into something extraordinary. So, the next time you come across a 1968 dime, especially in better than average shape, don't pass it by. Because even though most are worth 10 cents, a rare few are worth more than a new house. And just when you thought the values couldn't climb any higher, the next dime on our list will push the shock factor into overdrive. Trust me, you'll want to see this one. Next on our list is the 1966 Roosevelt dime, a coin that sits right in the heart of one of the most fascinating moments in U.S. coin history. The mid-1960s was the era when silver was being stripped from our coinage, and collectors were flooding banks, hoarding anything they thought might become valuable. Because of this coin shortage panic, The US Mint actually stopped placing mint marks on coins in 1965, 1966, and 1967. That means every 1966 dime you'll see carries no mint mark at all, and that detail alone makes it stand out. The coin we're looking at here is in fine condition. It's been circulated, with light to moderate wear across Roosevelt's portrait, some flattening in the hair, and a reverse where the torch and branches have lost a bit of their crisp detail. In this grade, a 1966 dime is usually worth just a little over face value. But the real shock comes from those rare few that survived in much higher grades, or with unusual striking errors. Collectors have discovered 1966 Roosevelt dimes with dramatic off-center strikes, double dies that make the lettering look doubled, and even missing clad layer errors where the coin shows a strange copper color. Any of these errors can push the value into the thousands, even for a coin that looks circulated. But when you step into the world of pristine examples, coins that somehow survived untouched for nearly 60 years, the numbers climb beyond belief. One gem quality 1966 dime, graded Ms. 68, with dazzling luster, stunned collectors at auction when it sold for more than $400,000. Think about that for a second. A dime from a year when gas was 30 cents a gallon and the Beatles were topping the charts is now worth more than most retirement accounts. That's the kind of hidden treasure that keeps collectors checking every single coin that passes through their hands. So the next time you come across a 1966 Roosevelt dime, don't just see it as pocket change. Look closely. Even one in fine condition, like the one we're holding here, could be the cousin of a six-figure rarity. And with so many error possibilities, you never know what you might uncover. And if you think $400,000 for a single dime is shocking, wait until you see what the next coin on our list has gone for. The story behind it might just leave you speechless. Now, let's take a look at a dime from the mid-1990s, the 1995p Roosevelt dime. Philadelphia produced hundreds of millions of these coins, and most people today wouldn't even pause before dropping one into a vending machine. But here's the truth. Even a coin as ordinary as this one can hide jaw-dropping surprises, and the 1995p has proven that again and again. The example we're looking at here is in extra fine condition. That means it has seen some circulation, but the details are still sharp. Roosevelt's cheekbone and hairlines are clear, and on the reverse, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch are all well defined. Coins like this are attractive to entry-level collectors and might fetch a few dollars, but that's just the beginning of the story. The 1995p dime has produced some spectacular mint errors that make the collecting world go wild. We're talking double die obverses where the lettering looks doubled, off-center strikes that leave half the design missing, and even misaligned dies that create strange and ghostly shadows across Roosevelt's portrait. Each of these errors transforms a dime worth 10 cents into a collectible worth thousands. But here's where the real shock comes in. While most circulated 1995p dimes are common, and circulated examples graded at the highest levels are anything but ordinary, a blazing Ms. 68 with perfect surfaces, no scratches, and sharp strike once sold at auction for an eye-popping $425,000. Imagine that nearly $500,000 for a dime struck less than 30 years ago. That's the kind of sale that makes even seasoned collectors sit up straight and wonder how many treasures are still hiding in plain sight. What makes this coin so fascinating is that it represents a modern sleeper rarity. Nobody in the 1990s was thinking about saving brand new dimes straight from circulation. They were too common, too ordinary. But the few that were carefully preserved have become gold mines for collectors today. So the next time you see a 1995 dime with that little P under the year, don't just toss it aside. Give it a second look, because even in extra fine condition like this one, it's part of a series that has shocked the market time and time again. And if you think $425,000 is wild for a modern dime, wait until you see what's next. The next coin on our list has a story and a value that pushed the shock factor to an entirely new level. Now, we come to the 1981p Roosevelt dime. And this is where the story gets really interesting. On the surface, this dime looks as ordinary as it gets. Philadelphia produced millions of them, and most went straight into pockets, cash registers, and coin jars. But as collectors have learned time and time again, the 1981p is one of those years where the unexpected lurks in plain sight. The coin we're looking at is in fine condition. It's been in circulation, showing moderate wear across Roosevelt's cheek and hair, with the reverse torch and branches beginning to flatten. In this grade, it might only bring a modest premium above face value, maybe $1 or $2 at most. But once you dig deeper, this dime's story flips from ordinary to extraordinary. The 1981p dime is famous among collectors for its striking errors and its scarcity in top grades. Some of the most sought-after pieces are double die obverses, where the motto and date show visible doubling, or off-center strikes where the design is dramatically shifted. These errors alone can turn a coin worth 10 cents into one worth thousands. But here's the kicker: pristine, uncirculated examples of the 1981p are incredibly rare. Most of the coins from this year suffered from weak strikes, heavy bag marks, or circulation wear. That makes high-grade survivors a true prize. And when one of these gems does show up, the market reacts with pure shock. A top-graded Ms. 68 example, once hammered down at auction for over $450,000. Imagine that, nearly $500,000 for a dime from the early 1980s. A year when most people were watching the rise of MTV and not worrying about saving pocket change. It's the perfect example of why collectors are so passionate about Roosevelt dimes. A coin that blends into everyday life can, under the right circumstances, be worth more than some of the rarest treasures in the hobby. That thrill of the unknown is what keeps people searching. So the next time you come across a 1981 dime with that P mint mark, don't shrug it off. Look closer, because history has already proven that this little coin can hold a six-figure secret. And here's the best part: we're not done yet. The next Roosevelt dime on our list pushes the envelope even further. If you thought $500,000 was shocking, just wait until you hear what coin number 9 has been valued at. Now, let's talk about one of the most important years in American coinage, the 1965 Roosevelt dime. This was the year the U.S. Mint made a historic change, pulling silver out of the dime and switching over to the copper nickel-clad coins we still use today. Millions were produced, and to most people, they looked identical to the dimes they'd used for years. But here's the catch: hidden among those millions are rare varieties worth staggering amounts of money. The coin we're looking at is in fine condition. That means Roosevelt's portrait shows moderate wear, the cheek and jawline are smoothed, and the reverse torch and branches have lost some detail. In this grade, most 1965 dimes are worth only a little more than face value. But collectors know to look deeper, because this year carries one of the most shocking secrets in the entire Roosevelt series. When the mint switched to clad coinage, a small number of 1965 dimes were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets from the year before. These silver 1965 dimes are the holy grail for collectors, almost impossible to spot at first glance, but instantly recognizable by their weight and ring. One of these rare silver errors has sold at auction for well over $500,000, a mind-blowing price for a coin that looks just like every other dime in your pocket. And that's not all. The 1965 dime also shows up with striking errors: off-center designs, double dies, and missing clad layers that reveal a coppery surface. Even circulated examples with these flaws can soar into the thousands. That means even a well-worn dime, like the one we have here, could still carry a surprise hidden in plain sight. What makes the 1965 dime so thrilling is its place in history. It marks the beginning of the modern era of coinage, but it also carries the rare possibility of being struck in silver, a mistake so dramatic, collectors would do anything to own one. That's why every single 1965 dime deserves a second look, no matter how ordinary it appears. So next time you come across a 1965 Roosevelt dime, especially in a handful of old change, take a closer look, because that dull little coin could be hiding a six-figure secret, and you wouldn't even know it until it's in your hands. And now, we've reached the end of our list, but not before revealing the final Roosevelt dime coin number 10. This last one takes everything we've talked about and pushes the value to a level that will leave you stunned. And now, we come to the final coin on our list, the one that proves you should never underestimate the Roosevelt dime, the 1977D. At first glance, it seems like the most ordinary of all. Denver struck tens of millions of these coins, and most of them were spent at gas stations, diners, and grocery stores without anyone giving them a second thought. But the world of coin collecting thrives on the unexpected, and this little dime has stunned even the most seasoned experts. The example we're holding is in fine condition. That means it's circulated, with visible wear across Roosevelt's cheek and jaw, flattening in the hair, and a reverse design that has lost some sharpness. On its own, a coin like this might only bring a tiny premium over face value. But here's where things take a shocking turn. The 1977D Roosevelt dime has been linked to some incredible error discoveries, off-center strikes so dramatic that half the design is missing, double die verses where the date and lettering appear doubled, and even missing clad layer errors that reveal a copper core underneath. Each of these mistakes can send the value soaring into the thousands, even for circulated pieces, but the real thrill comes when a pristine, high-grade 1977D surfaces. Collectors have battled fiercely for top-graded gems, coins with mirror-like luster, razor-sharp details, and not a single scratch in sight. And when those beauties hit the auction block, the results have been jaw-dropping. One such example sold for more than $600,000, a record-shattering price for a dime that most people would have spent without thinking twice. Imagine that. More than $500,000 for a coin from the late 1970s. A decade most of us still remember like yesterday. What makes this story so powerful is the reminder it carries. Fortune doesn't always come wrapped in gold or silver. Sometimes it hides in the smallest, most ordinary places. Even in the pocket change you handle every single day. The 1977D Roosevelt dime is proof that history, rarity, and sheer luck can collide in a way that turns 10 cents into life-changing money. So there you have it. 10 Roosevelt dimes that could be worth a fortune. From worn and circulated pieces with hidden errors to pristine gems that stunned the auction world, these coins show us why the thrill of the hunt never dies. And if you've been watching closely, you now know what to look for. Because the next dime you find might just be the one that changes everything. If you enjoyed this journey into the world of hidden treasures, make sure to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries so you never miss another incredible coin story. And remember, the next rare discovery could already be sitting in your pocket.